Hello back and welcome back to the Grey Area. My name is Marty Jepp.
And I'm Seiji Nakano.
And at the Grey Area, we talk about kindness, but we also talk about adult wisdom taken from Disney movies, which is a second alternative side of the Grey Area, because you need to put some Disney, and we're kind of adults here, so why not?
Why not?
Let's link these two things up. There's been a lot of not to promote any streaming platform, but there's been a lot of Disney Plus anyway. Very convenient.
That's a very indirect way of describing some services, but yeah, sure.
I'm still not in my right mind, so I'm just I'm still processing. Right. Anyway, we had a lot of time to watch Disney movies. I'm a Disney freak, and I think a lot, so it kind of made sense. But I just got very, how to put it into words, very shocked, I would say, when I was doing my weekly Disney movie, and I went onto Peter Pan, and because I don't know, it was ages I hadn't seen it. And I remember I was talking to my mom, like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm like, maybe I watched Beauty and the Beast. And she said, oh, that's such a great idea. I watched it like 3 times already in confinement. And I was like, I'm just going to change. Yeah. And I'm gonna watch Peter Pan. And I remembered as a child, I don't know, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, well, I
liked the songs, and you know, it was written in London, and it's kind of like, you know. So I start watching it, and my adult wisdom starts kicking in, and it's not very nice. It's like I realize about things that I'm like, what? You know. But let's start, you know, piece by piece.
Fine.
So the movie was it was shown in the 1950s, right? It's like, I think after Cinderella. They have the same team. You can see it in the animation as well. The drawings are very similar as well, which, you know, I just love Nana, for example. It's just such a lovely drawing, such a character. But it makes sense because we have also Cinderella, which I will analyze in a while. Anyway, I start watching it, and I see there are some things that don't resonate with me, like Peter Pan himself.
Okay.
And I used to like Peter Pan. I thought, you know, great guy, saving the kids and stuff. And then I see some comments that are like, no, man, you're not doing it right. It's like he comes in, and Wendy's so excited about Peter Pan. She's already in love, and he comes in.
Yeah.
And anyway, I carry on talking. And she's like, oh, you know, I can mend your shadow, la la la. And she starts sewing. And he's like, oh, I like your tails. And she's like, oh, do you? He's like, yeah, because they talk about me. And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't pick that up when I was a kid. And I'm like, they talk about me. Of course I like them. Like, okay, narcissism strike number 1. Let's go with it. Yeah. And then he's like, Wendy, you come with me to Neverland. Yeah. And she's like, oh, so exciting. She's excited about everything. And I could see myself in Wendy, like, and it's so exciting. And he's like, because you're gonna tell stories about me to all the lost kids. And she's like, yeah, of course, but we need to take my, you know, siblings, because they're so excited about you. And he's like, really? No, that's not part of the deal. And she's like, yeah, it's part of the deal. They're coming with me, which is like, good, well done, Wendy. That's all right. And he's a little bit, you know, reluctant, but he's like, okay, all right, if that's what it takes, fine. So his plan is using Wendy to just for his own sake.
Well,
I'm like, oh, that's really mean.
to please himself.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's so mean. And I don't know, man. I came up with that realization, and I thought,
Yeah.
okay, let's carry on watching the movie and see what
Yeah.
surprises I'm gonna find, you know. And Tinkerbell, I love her, but
Mhm.
I mean, it's pretty much the concept of a jealous woman would be
Yeah.
for men.
Yeah.
But I'll carry on talking about Peter Pan and
Fine.
Neverland, and then go to the next topic.
Fine.
So anyway, they go to Neverland, and they're all so excited, and it's so amazing. They're just seeing all the, you know, for real, whoa,
Yeah.
adventure time, cool. And then one thing that strikes me as well as a woman is how toxic Neverland is for a woman. And I would just say
Yeah.
it's Toxic Land. And he's Toxic Land with a narcissist as the king of Toxic Land. I'm sorry for everyone who loves Peter Pan. Not my intention.
Yeah.
This is what I've been analyzing as a woman in the 21st century. What can I say? I need to read the book, though. I need to read the play.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't read it. But I'm just focusing on the movie. So they go to Neverland, and he uses Wendy, you know, to go around. Yeah, I'm going with Wendy. And Wendy's like, he's my boyfriend. And he's like, no, you're not my girlfriend. Like, whatever. But she clearly is like, no, that's, you know, he's my boyfriend. I'm going to be really annoyed every time he's doing like this, and that, and like lecturing him. And then, I don't know, he goes around, and I'm going to show you mermaids. And so Wendy, and this is episode 2, Wendy.
Yeah.
And Wendy is already dealing with a fairy that is totally passive aggressive and jealous.
Yeah.
And she goes to the mermaids, and they
they are
throw
terrible.
her to the water.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, passive aggressiveness strike number 2. And they're all like, oh, Peter, oh my God, Peter, you're here. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting sick of Peter Pan at this very point. And it's like, oh, it's all right, you know, they're just playing. And I'm like, no, they're not playing. They're being passive aggressive as men would. It's like, I just got very annoyed at the fact that the script team was made up by men who were, which, okay, that's how things were. But is this concept of how women were back in the 1950s. So we are, and sorry for the term, but I'm just going to have to say it. Amongst women, we seem to be passive-aggressive bitches. And there was jealousy, and everything was to compete for a man.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so, I don't know, this is so mad to realize about these things turning 30. And then I have seen that movie for so long in my childhood. And so I would call Peter Pan, I would name it as Peter Pan or the Adoration of a Narcissist. So sick of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you remember Peter Pan?
I remember clearly, and I remember liking it so much. But well, obviously, I am a guy, and I never doubted that. But once you pointed out and also looking at that from the modern perspectives of the 21st century perspectives.
Yeah,
you're right. It's wrong. It's
very wrong.
It's
like,
wrong. It's
and then I got so annoyed. Then Wendy does what, you know, we girls. And I don't know. I have seen myself as Wendy in you know, previous relationships, and her saying, this is the last time this is happening, next time, blah, blah, blah. And he shuts her up and he's like,
Yeah.
let's go and see the pirates. Oh,
Yeah.
there's something going on. There's a bigger problem
Yeah.
than your problem. I'm not going to listen to you. And she's like, all right. And then she just follows him. And then he just flies. And poor Wendy, she's just learning to fly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait for me. He's like, I don't give it, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't really care whether you fly fast or not. I'm not considering you at all, because my point is going and save the world. I have my goal and you just
Yeah.
have to follow me.
Yeah.
And she goes she follows him around
Yeah.
and she doesn't have any chance to live the adventure,
Yeah.
which is, I get so annoyed at Wendy
Yeah.
by following him. And then I
yeah.
think, we have done that, Martha. We have done that. It's like,
Yep.
because we have been following these patterns, like you
Yeah.
need to follow the guy, or they kind of like,
Yeah.
it's alright, just kind of, your problem is not as big.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
that was a concept back in the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting really annoyed by it, but I
Worked
carry
up
on.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they just go, and then he saves Tiger Lily,
Yeah.
and it's like, and Wendy's like, oh, so amazing, we made it. And I'm like, no, Wendy. And they go to the camp, and then he's flirting with Tiger Lily, and Wendy goes and collects wood, because that's what moms do.
Yeah.
You can't have fun. You just go and do the work, because this is for guys, Fun is for guys. And I remember when I was a kid, I got so annoyed at it already. I was like, why? What's the point?
Yeah.
So she's annoyed. She's pretty annoyed. She's like, what's the point of being here? Like, I'm used. I'm totally exploited. I'm not like, my boyfriend is not giving me any consideration. He's just flirting with Tiger Lily, and she goes super jealous at her. And I just thought, I don't know, for women, it's such a toxic movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got really annoyed at it. And what I find interesting is that somehow, I don't know, I felt very identified with Wendy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
In everything she was doing.
Accepting it, and also,
and keeping it up. It's like, so annoying, but I'm just going to have to do it. No, you can drop it and say, I'm not going to do any of that.
Yeah.
Why? Why can I?
Yeah.
And then they go on, because obviously Peter is kind of like, arranging everyone and everything. And he assigns John to lead the group to go on adventure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? I mean, Lost Kids know way better the territory, because
they are around the area.
it.
I know. Yeah.
And then John, who's only heard stories about Peter Pan and that's it, is assigned to be the guy who leads the group. Why? Because he looks clever.
Yeah.
I mean, no other way. And I'm like, yeah, that
is so true.
I don't know. I just came up with that.
I mean, Neverland is supposed to be, or Neverland is the land of childs, right? The kids. And but it's actually putting emphasis on those childish behaviors, that validating those childish behaviors that really causes a lot of discrimination, or the narcissism, or the self-centered actions.
Yeah. I think, and again, I haven't read the play, and I have to, but it's only on the movie, okay? But on what I got from the movie is like, that's how boys do boys, and that's Neverland.
Yeah.
And girls do girls, which is Toxic Land.
Yeah.
And I got really annoyed that it's, an epic movie that many kids like. And I don't know, if any guy says to me, my hero is Peter Pan, I would say, okay, you can take your things and leave because I'm not taking it, you know. And then Wendy gets really annoyed at Peter Pan. She's like, we're leaving tonight. That's it. So girlfriend gets annoyed, and then probably Peter Pan would say, he didn't say it, but they implied it in the dialogue, like, you're going hysterical, like you're overreacting. And she's like, no, we're going tonight, la la la. And you know, everything happens and pirates came. Actually, I like Hook.
It's like, me too.
I mean, poor guy. Seriously.
I know.
Poor guy.
He's probably the most rational person in that.
Well, you know, he's a complex guy. He's got his fears of getting older and, you know, but he's more real. Obviously, I'm an adult, but I have a big inner child, so I understand when, you know, like, I really take care of that too. So I really sympathize or, you know, empathize much more with Hook than with bloody Peter Pan, honestly. And then they take everyone to the ship, and you know, everything is kind of like, battle and stuff. And Wendy's like, oh no, I'm sure he's gonna save us, I'm sure. And I'm like, he's been using you for the whole bloody movie, and you're still saying he's gonna save the day because I really trust Peter Pan. And I'm like, oh, get a grip, girl. You know, I don't know. Like these kind of like not hope, but faith that the guy will save the day, and no matter what he's done to you. You know, and then he saves the day, and then Wendy's like, oh, you know, he's so amazing, Peter Pan is so great. No, he's not. You know, he's doing it for his own sake because he loves to be adored by everyone. Probably because he doesn't have a mum, and so he's got his own, you know, internal issues, which is part of the, you know, psychology behind. But anyway, and they come back. And Wendy's like, I just loved it. And I'm like, did you? Honestly? From a rational point of view, did you love it? Because I wouldn't have loved it. I mean, I was like, I'm so ready to be an adult. Please take me to adult land. If that's what childhood and you know, Neverland means, take me out of there. I don't want it. You know? It's I don't know. I found that concept of I don't know, childhood, or going back to your inner child, and that's what your inner child means for women. Wow.
In terms of kindness, is any element in Peter Pan kind at all?
I don't think so. He's not kind at all. He's neither kind nor nice. He's projecting his own insecurities into everyone else so he can have the love he never had, really. And he goes very defensive. It's more about, if you think about it, it's more about vulnerability shields. So he's got this massive shield. Because he needs to be the guy to be loved and to be adored. And he's got all these insecurities. He's hiding behind I'm the master of the world, you know, like, talk about me. I need to feel that. Because he's seeking external validation, really.
And attention-seeking behaviors that leads to that, too.
And I don't like, but I was analyzing one part of the movie when they all go. And he's in the hammock on his own. And he's very cross at everyone, but he's like, oh, whatever, they're going to come back, you know. Didn't care. Well, yes, you care. You're feeling lonely, and you're just projecting it into that self-assurance image, you know, like, I'm more powerful than all that, you know. And that's toxic masculinity as well, if you think about it. don't know.
What
are your thoughts about it?
Well, I never I never looked at the Peter Pan from that perspectives. But yeah, it's actually, I was just trying to remember the time that I watched Peter Pan back in time as an Asian person.
Okay, wow, that's going to be very interesting to hear.
Because you are right about the self-centered behaviors. And if you behave that way, like Peter Pan in your primary school, you're definitely gonna get bullied.
Really?
Because you're disturbing the water, you're disturbing the harmony in the group.
Oh wow.
So I was always more reserved and more quiet boy, and even if I had many different ideas, I tried to not to disturb so much group activities. So when I watched the Peter Pan, I was like, well, I mean, yeah, definitely this is from Western. It was made in America. That's what I thought at that time. When I obviously the story itself comes from Britain, but when I watched that Disney movie, I thought
it was American
well,
script.
this is definitely an American movie or the animation, because it really doesn't like I wouldn't like him. He can be quite a bully. But at the same time, I didn't really doubt it. It didn't really come across my mind about those things, because it's just a Western animation for me.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah.
As a boy, it's all action. It's all pirates. It's all like the
adventures and yeah.
So I was talking about it with my flatmates, and the two guys I live with, they were pretty strong about what I was saying. Like, oh, really? You have a very strange way of thinking. And my flatmate, she's another girl, and she actually studied literature, and she said, no, actually, I wrote an essay about that. And I'm like, yes, cool. You go, girl. And she was talking about patronizing into fairy tales, but she was talking about Disney movies, which is something I've done as well. Academically. So I shut them down. But it's not about the story but it's about what was the concept back in the day if we analyze it. And it's very similar to the concept of women with Cinderella, which was shown. It's a contemporary. And it's that. So if you think about community of women, they're pretty lonely. They don't have any women next to them saying, we're going to be friends. They're just fighting against each other. And I find funny that we as women tend to think, we're so toxic between against each other, and this sense of community of women and really being for one another is pretty new. We've been taught that we women are very toxic and passive aggressive to us as women, you know? And it's so, I don't know, I just found it so outrageous that we have been living with that. Because it was actually men who were designing it.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. Well, yes, I know.
I mean, those things, it's like it's not the egg or chicken story or anything, but that the more you produce the storylines like that projects the stereotypical image that the men tend to think, or the other people tend to think, any stories that they create as a story, and woman tends, in that Cinderella part, that the woman tends to be mean to each other. That woman tends to be mean to each other's narratives. If that gets embedded into many different stories, those projection goes into the kids, goes into everyone, and that also, because of that projection towards ourselves, that becomes more strongly embedded to our lives too. And which makes it worse. And also, that for like a Peter Pan story that that Peter Pan being so narcissistic, and the girls going, "Oh, Peter Pan, you're so cool." That also projects the idea of society that accepting that selfish behaviors,
but
validating those ideas.
It's I mean, there was that was their concept of boys will be boys, back in the day. That's how they behave. And then it's the masculine concept of what, like, on gender, back in the 1950s. And I think it's interesting to see from a historical point of view, but also analyzing it nowadays. I'm not very sure if I would show. I mean, I would show Peter Pan to my kids under certain pedagogical, like working with them, but not like, here you go, watch Peter Pan. I wouldn't do it because it's showing such toxic behaviors that I wouldn't dare to leave them watching that. It's so I don't know, maybe it's very deep for others. I don't know. I'm pretty much of a deep thinker, but I wouldn't. Honestly, it's a bit disturbing to me as a woman. And thinking that I, like a boy could just go that way, and I remember my mum talked back to me and she was like, "Oh, did you watch Beauty and the Beast?" And I was like, "No, I watched Peter Pan." And she said, "Really?" And I'm like,
Really?
"Yeah." And she goes, "Okay, that was a bit," and I said, "Yeah," and I had very, like, I hate Peter Pan. And she said, "Me too." We all do. Like, I didn't like Peter Pan at all, and the only one I like is Hook and Smith and the Parrots and the Lost Boys. They're fun, and that's another topic I'm not gonna touch into. But she would say, "Yeah, he was with all the respect, but he was a prick. He was a twat." And I said, "Yeah, he was. Oh my god." And she's like, "And Wendy, oh my god, I just don't like Wendy at all." And I have pity for Wendy, I have to say, because I don't know, I include myself in the Wendy group back in the when handling relationships. It's that self-confidence to say no. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Because you're Peter Pan, Okay. And my sister, she was like, "Oh, you've been thinking very deep about it." And I said, "Just came. It just came. It just came." But it was very revealing. To find all these toxic masculinity in this movie, and I got really annoyed at the Six Man, who was the team that created it. Which, okay, at the time, that's what it was, and that's the historical context behind. But wow, the concept they have on women. No.
So if we were to remake Peter Pan, how would you do that? How would we do that?
I would change Wendy and the mermaids and Tinkerbell. Peter Pan can be as narcissistic as he wants. But if you have all women around you adoring you, obviously he's not gonna, like, he's gonna be kind of the same. It's like, why?
Actually, I'll be very
just team up.
Because there's a movie from the villain point of view quite a lot these days. Like Maleficent or Joker or whatever, that they putting more emphasis on the perspectives of looking at the hero in that sense.
Yeah.
I wonder if they can make a movie from the pirate's point of view, how Peter Pan is such out of control, aloof child that that treats girls bad and
Well, there is I love that series, and I'm not very sure if they're still on. It's called Once Upon a Time.
Ah.
And they put Peter Pan as one of the villains.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's such an egotistical character. Yeah. And he's one of the worst villains of the
really
of the series. Yeah, and they have to fight against Peter Pan. I really like that series.
Nice.
It's great because they put fairy tales in a very modern concept, and it's amazing. But yeah, they haven't. And I remember, sorry, I'm just like going all over on this, but I remember seeing and I was like, oh, that's surprising. Peter Pan, really? And I was pretty surprised because I couldn't remember what it was until I watched it the other day, and I was like, my God.
It's true. Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, because I knew about the Once Upon a Time, but it actually that really motivates me to watch that series.
Do it. It's really great, and I think it's on Netflix if I can remember. I don't know, but it used to be. Nice. Yeah. So I don't know. To me, Peter Pan, okay, yeah, the boy who didn't want to grow up and he didn't want to face the adult world and keeping yourself in the imagination world.
Yeah,
that's fine. But the other part is not that fine.
No.
And I don't know. I just I got very shocked at it, so I thought, yeah.
Well, this is definitely something that your view can change about one animation. You might like it when you're a child, but when you watch it as an adult, it's just terrible. It's terrible people. Yeah.
I don't. One of my flatmates was like, "But you like Disney, do you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. It's just that I'm seeing them in a very different different point of view, and I like Disney. I just don't like those things about it, you know." Yeah. So yeah, that is my adult wisdom taken from Disney movies this week. Please, boys, don't be like Peter Pan. Consider the girls. Don't say it's a girls' game. It's just it's not that. You need to consider everyone. But
It's extremely the old-fashioned way of thinking anyway these days. So
but it might be old-fashioned way of thinking. But you see many Peter Pans around, you know, and I think it roots down to because I'll go back to my favorite Brené Brown. She's my hero, and she talks about vulnerability shields, and that's one of the things that. When we don't want to face our own wounds, and we tend to protect them, and we've all done it. We all do it, you know. It's the way we think we are gonna feel safe, and that's the way he feels safe somehow. It's needing love from outside instead of working on the inside and say, I'm just gonna. Can you imagine Peter Pan saying, I'm gonna work on my wounds. I'm gonna work on my mother wounds, and I'm just gonna work on my insecurities, and I'm just gonna hire a therapist. I couldn't see that going. Anyway.
Peter Pan at the therapist office. That would be quite interesting.
That would be very interesting. It could be a very long movie, like talking about. Well, he does it on Hook.
Oh, with the Robin Williams one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of background there.
That's true. Huh.
But then he kind of forgets how to be a child, and it's like one thing doesn't take the other. You can be a big child in terms of having a big, imaginative world, and to be a kind person to everyone, especially women. So yeah. And Wendy, oh girl, we've been there. We've been there, but that's not the way. You don't follow the guy, love. No, you don't adore it that way.
Yeah.
I'm going very like, but I just couldn't help it. I can't help it as a, woman who, girls, bear with me if I'm wrong, maybe, but this is my opinion, but we deal a lot with empowerment nowadays. We work a lot on empowering ourselves, and we put a lot of effort on empowering ourselves, and like, don't follow the guy, and do what you feel like doing, and it's not, and it's a big struggle as a society. It still is, it's like we need to be, and I can see that from many women I've been meeting lately, and I've been making friends with, and then and like the general point is we've all been in the follow the guy mode.
Yeah.
And now we just kind of retreat ourselves and say, well, I'm going to follow my path, and then and power myself to just do my thing. And then it seems like if I empower myself, I don't let any guy come to me because he's like, oh, wow, I'm wild. It doesn't really, you don't need that. Like, one thing doesn't take the other. But there is this general, I don't know, behavior that we've all gone through it. And it's a tough task to do sometimes. Like I'm gonna fight for my dreams, and because the whole society and it's shifting very, very slowly. I mean, it's not the same as it used to be, but we still fight against many patterns of thinking, and our own patterns of thinking on I don't want to lose myself. I remember I was talking lately with group of friends, and we all like women, and many of us shared the same kind of concept of I don't want to lose myself in a relationship. But the guys don't really have that. You guys don't have that kind of concept, right? I don't know, maybe you do, but I don't know.
Depends on the person itself, but it's, I mean, majority-wise, it's easier for guys to. In Japanese perspective, that there's much more it is a masculine culture in that sense that there are a lot of still there are a lot of emphasis on woman, when you get married, woman being a housewife and quitting the job. But there's been a bit of changes, but still it's quite strong in Japan. And when it comes to that kind of culture, when I went back to Japan to observe that, it's, the society, it just, people don't doubt being like that. And it's quite, when those ideas of equality, obviously the guys are also, the ones that are in that situation, ones that in the supposed superior position are the ones that have to also change. Rather than the ones that being discriminated to fight against the authority. It's actually more often the people who have more authority or who has power needs to change, need to fight harder to change things. Otherwise, it's always have to push back. You need to fight from the both sides to make sure that they're balanced.
But are there many women in power positions in Japan?
Not as many. The gender equality rate in Japan is extremely low. Sadly to say, but it's extremely low. There are rising number of the higher female managers and female executives, but still in general it still has that the male culture being the manager, and it's extremely hard. And also, I worked as a human resource manager back in time, and there's a bit of emphasis about which really disgusted me at that time, was that they talk about that when recruiting someone, they see one of the manager was talking about, well, would I hire a girl for sales or the guy for the sales, but the girl might quit because she might get pregnant. That kind of conversation just naturally happens. It shouldn't happen, but that happens, and every time that you hear that, you need to point that out, that you can't do that. It's not ethical to do that.
I just felt, I don't know, it's a sense of identity. It's the sense of us women. It's kind of like it takes someone to be very self-confident to say, I'm just going to do my way, you're going to follow me, which I admire. I always admired that, and I'm there, right? But it takes a lot of work, inner work, to get rid of those external patterns and really find yourself and say, I'm doing my thing and I like it, and I don't need to follow anyone, which, it doesn't, I'm not telling anyone to do it. It's my own self-reflection. But that's my perception. I don't know. There are many Wendy's around, and trying to mend things or trying to save Peter Pans, and I just and many Tinkerbells as well. It's like the both sides of the coin. And I go, is it like, does it need to be that way? That's how men used to think of us. That was a concept. But there's so much more that we can achieve as women. And sky is the limit. You can get anything you want, but we need to get rid of our own limitations. And I include myself in that, many of us think, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I'm capable, and for boys it's not as an issue, you know what I mean?
Well, you need, women needs more self-assurance and self-confidence to speak out loud, while the male people doesn't need as much as you do, because the environment was it's much easier to speak up as a guy. It's true, it is true.
So from the Wendy perspective, I wouldn't hate her, I wouldn't dislike her, because I think many of us have been there, and
I think what needs to be done is to create the safer environment for from all of us to be able to speak up. The environment for people to actually, which is happening a bit more these days. Considering the diversity and inclusion activities and everything, but putting continuously do that, and also continuously progress into creating the safe environment that anyone can speak up when they feel, and encouraged to speak up when they want to.
But not only at work.
Their personal life as well. But it's hard. The personal life, how to make that environment is really,
well, it's about empowering. You are absolutely valid. We are totally valid and worthy, and we as women building a community of women and supporting each other instead of going against each other, which is, from my experience, you're at school, you like a guy, the other girl likes the same guy, and we just go and sorry about the term, but beach around it, like, and it's like, well, it's the concept in Peter Pan, right? It's like the mermaids throwing Wendy to the water. She's an enemy. Like, we're enemies for the guy.
Yeah.
And I think what is changing, and I'm very glad, is that women are starting to support each other as a community. And we have the same feelings, we have the same experiences, and we're not alone in it. It's like if the mermaids and Wendy and Tinkerbell sat together with a coffee, they would go like, oh my god, I feel the same.
Oh, that would be quite interesting conversation.
That. I would love that. I would love that conversation. And it unites, and it makes us more, like, to be driven for change. And this is a very, very deep reflection on Peter Pan. But
I know.
I think it's important to, consider, still, it's a historical background, it's like back in the 1950s, but it's still on, and kids are still watching it. So watch it, but with a
mindset of
of growing and analyzing it from a different point of view. So so any other mention that you wanna add?
No, I don't think so. That's I never thought that we're gonna have this deep conversation after Peter Pan. So
hey, you never know.
I know.
Okay, well, this was adult wisdom taken from Disney movies from the gray area. We have a quote of the week.
All right. So the quote of the week is actually coming from the actual Aikido master who created Aikido. He said, when an opponent comes forward, move in and greet him. If he wants to pull back, send him on his way.
Okay. Funny. How could we put it into
the context of this?
The context of this.
Yeah, well, sometimes you still have to fight back, though. So.
Yeah, well, I think if it were like Wendy can't really fight against the whole toxicity that it's around her, so she going around it and not using the force.
It talks about the contradiction, isn't it? Because you can't just be pushover in that sense.
Yeah.
You still have to, being steady is much deeper than being pushover. You still need to stand on your point.
Yeah.
But again, that when you communicate with the person who are completely opposite with you, or they have the completely opposite opinion about something, you still need to, rather than punch in the face, you need to learn how to in a smart way how to deal with that, and smart way how to convince that, or
that's basically how you deal with a narcissist, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, you can't go confrontational.
No, because that fuels the narcissism.
Yeah. So Wendy, learn Aikido.
That's
Please.
The conclusion.
That's the conclusion. Wendy, go on to Aikido and learn it, and then you'll be able to deal with Neverland marvelously.
Oh, imagine Wendy just going like the Aikido way, and then Peter Pan coming to her and just going like this.
And she saves the day. She's like, hey, anything else? I'm gonna deal with Hook, and everybody else, you go onto your hammock and try to do whatever you want to. It's like, learn Aikido.
Yeah.
Adult wisdom taken to Wendy. Go and learn it. Just saying. And breathe. Okay.
All right.
Right. Well, guys, have a lovely week.
and treat yourself with kindness.
Yes, treat yourself with kindness, and breathe, and enjoy the weekend as well.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.